This is the early morning of the 29th of July, 2024. This was put up by Midas Touch. It was put up on the 28th. When I got it, it had 858,198 views. Title: Trump hiding medical records after shooting. Plays for just under 13 minutes. So let's have a listen. I'll do my best to get rid of any ads that pop up.
As I think you can see, I've recovered well and, in fact, just took off the last bandage off of my ear. I just got it off. I took it off for this group. I don't know why I did that for this group, but that's it. I think that's it. I hope that's it.
Folks,
We've all had injuries. We've all had cuts. He was reportedly shot on the 13th of the month, and this is the 29th. Now, do you not find it rather amazing that, according to what we can see, he's completely healed? Let's listen to what Gabe Sanchez has to say.
Mar-a-Lago miracle. Less than 2 weeks after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, his ear appears to have magically healed itself. Check it out. While the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, was visiting Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was seen not wearing his bandage. So in the span of a few days, Trump went from wearing a DIY maxi pad at the RNC to wearing some band-aids to nothing. And just to be clear, I'm not denying that the attempted assassination happened. It did happen, and political violence is completely unacceptable. The issue here is that Trump's lies surrounding the shooting and his reluctance to release medical records are causing many people to doubt the extent of the damage. For instance, 2 days after the shooting, Ronnie Candyman Jackson told serial plagiarist Benny Johnson that the bullet took the top part of Trump's ear off.
Is he missing a piece of his ear?
Yeah, a little bit at the top, yeah.
Really?
And, it's highly vascular. Yeah, that's right. That's what he did. He tell you that whenever he first happened? That's what he told me too. Yeah.
The Netflix adaptation, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is weird because if we look at photos of Trump's ear on July 26th, just 13 days after the shooting, his ears look fine, and they look fine here, and they look fine here. I mean, Trump was even showing it off to Netanyahu during his visit to Mar-a-Lago. Looks completely intact if you ask me. You can also see his ear later that day while speaking at Turning Point USA. No missing part of his ear, no damage, and no scabbing. And now, MAGA looks like even bigger idiots because they wore those bandages at the RNC in support of Donald Trump for a wound that appears to be non-existent.
Did you see the FBI today apologize? I said, well, it might have been a bullet, but it might have been glass. So really, where did the glass come from? Or it might have been shrapnel. Where did the shrapnel come from?
I'm going to discuss this more in a bit, but the FBI never said it was glass. Trump is the one who keeps bringing it up, which makes you wonder, why? The more that Donald Trump talks about the shooting, it creates even more skeptics, especially when you remember how he originally described it. Immediately after the shooting, Trump posted on his Twitter knockoff Truth Social, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt a bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening." You'd have to be a fool to take Trump at his word, especially when photos from the shooting would indicate that there was almost no damage to his ear and very little bleeding. But leave it to Trump to go from saying that the bullet ripped through his skin to bragging that he took a bullet for democracy.
And they say, oh, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't. And I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. Who knows?
You sure about that?
The crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Get them out of here, please. Get them out. Are you from Mexico? Oh, this is amazing. So much fun. I love it. We having a good time?
He's even bragging about it on Truth Social. The Biden-Harris administration did not properly protect me, and I was forced to take a bullet for democracy. It was my great honor to do so. So now it's a great honor to get shot at? Are you kidding me? This guy had a family doctor say that he had bone spurs so he could dodge the Vietnam draft. Trump is a serial liar who lied more than 30,000 times while in the White House. So it's not surprising that this narcissist isn't being truthful about his injury.
I do want to ask, just because the president talked at length about it, he said the ears are the bloodiest part of the body. There was a large volume of blood. He made note of that last night. Is that true?
I heard the same thing. I was watching as well. And, I don't know what anatomy textbook him and his docs are using, but that struck me as a bit nonsensical.
Trump said it ripped through his skin, except according to the doctor who treated his ear, no stitches were needed.
Former president was treated at Butler Memorial Hospital. He did not require stitches.
When I heard the call, you're thinking worst case scenario.
Dr. David Rottinghaus says his staff coordinated with the Secret Service well in advance of the rally.
And since Trump hasn't released medical records to the public, it's caused many to wonder what the long-term effects will be, especially as cognitive function is already an issue for Trump.
Missed penetrating his skull, but actually impacting the surrounding tissues, in this case his ear. That's what we're being told. That's serious, Alex. I come from a military background. That predisposes in some cases to a traumatic brain injury. Over time, we may not see initial symptoms up front. There could have been signs of bleeding that maybe were not present on that initial CT scan that apparently was normal per whatever report we got, that summary report. There's a lot of potential impacts here that can impact his functioning if he's the next president, to his balance, to his hearing, again, that can manifest over time. So this is a big deal. Tangential gunshot wound. If this was indeed a bullet injury to the ear, this is a big deal. Tangential gunshot wounds, we see them again all the time in the armed forces. They can have secondary impacts.
This is a valid concern. If you're running for president and were just hit by a bullet, the American people deserve to know the extent of the damage.
The kinetic impact to the body from that type of bullet, from an AR-15 style weapon, is massive. So if that was really a bullet injury, it should cause significant soft tissue damage. I want to say it'd be helpful for the American public to understand what was the degree of injury. Were they able to control the bleeding without stitches, just to confirm what Eric Trump is saying? What was that process like? Did they use things like Dermabond or Steri-strips to help? It would be helpful to understand the extent of injury, absolutely. And then did they do a cranial full neurologic exam? Is his hearing and is his balance, are they intact? We don't know.
So as more people started asking questions about the shooting, Trump's BFF Ronnie Jackson issued a medical report, or rather a letter. Oh, and just so you know, Ronnie Jackson is not Trump's doctor, nor did he treat Trump after the shooting. I mean, the guy doesn't even have a medical license anymore. Ronnie Jackson, aka the Candyman, was demoted by the Navy for running a pill mill in the Trump White House and sexually harassing female staffers while under the influence. Remember, Trump only hires the best people, amazing fraudsters, the greatest liars and scammers. And if you want to protect yourself from fraud and keep your identity safe, make sure to check out today's sponsor, Aura. Just the other day,
Can I get rid of the ad? Yeah, he only hires the best, huh? His administration was like musical chairs. I made countless videos on that. Absolute joke. The sad reality is they don't give us a choice. You can pick from this garbage or this other garbage. What do you end up with? A pile of garbage. This country is really screwed. Like I said, they can't go forward until they clean up the past, starting with arresting Barack Obama and charging him with having usurped the Oval Office, and get rid of Nancy Pelosi for having vetted him. It's just sickening. It's absolutely sickening. They're still running an ad, so I'm going to wait until it's all done. Not interested in promoting somebody else's garbage. Yeah. This guy's Midas Touch has almost 2.75 million subscribers.
In the letter, Jackson went on to describe Trump's injury, how the bullet made a 2-centimeter wide wound, and how there was a significant amount of bleeding. But if we look at the photo of Trump from the rally on July 13th, there's no significant bleeding, and there definitely is not a 2-centimeter wide wound. See this blue tape on my ear? That is 2 centimeters. That is how much damage Ronnie Jackson said was done to Trump's ear. And when we look at a close-up photo of Donald Trump on July 27, there is no damage to be seen, let alone damage that's 2 centimeters in length. And just for reference, a penny is 1.9 centimeters. So you're telling me that Trump had a 2-centimeter wound, and then 7 days after that letter was sent, it just magically disappeared?
Right.
Ronnie's making it sound like Trump has Wolverine-like healing powers. Ronnie might want to lay off the old sauce. But more importantly, why is anyone taking Ronnie Jackson at his word? He's not only not a licensed doctor, but he's also not the doctor who treated Trump after the shooting. The last time that Ronnie Jackson told people that he was a doctor, he was drunk at a rodeo where he threatened to beat up police officers and then was put in handcuffs. The last person that anyone should be listening to for medical advice is the Candyman. But this whole thing got flipped on its head when FBI Director Christopher Wray made this statement before Congress.
With respect to former President Trump, there's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that hit his ear.
Now, the FBI would clarify this 2 days later by saying what struck former President Trump in the ear was a bullet, whether whole or fragmented into smaller pieces, fired from the deceased subject's rifle.
This is absolutely ridiculous that he would make a comment like this. This degrades any level of credibility that this man may have had after years of weaponizing the FBI and the DOJ against the president. It was absolutely a bullet. I examined it. It was the track of a bullet. It was scooped out in the just as it would be in the track of a bullet. It had the telltale other damage that is associated with it. All the surrounding tissue in the ear was swollen and edematous. His ear looked like a wrestler's ear when it's fat and swollen, and that goes along with the trauma from a high velocity.
It's just completely insane that it would have healed in 16 days. We've all had injuries. I mean, this is just a complete farce. And they killed people to try to validate that he was shot at. Absolutely insane. And this Ronnie Jackson should be thrown out of the Senate. He too is garbage.
Bullet as it passes through tissue. That's a hallmark of a gunshot wound, is that the tissue outside around the bullet track is also traumatized and damaged.
If the tissue around the bullet track is traumatized, how the hell does it clear itself up in 10 days? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And that would not happen from a piece of glass or even from a fragment.
My money is on a fragment of a bullet that hit Trump's ear, not a whole bullet.
First of all, bullets don't fragment unless they hit something. I've probably shot, 20, 25,000, 30,000 rounds over the years. And bullets don't fragment flying through the air. They just don't fragment unless they hit something. And they're not going to fragment hitting an ear. They're going to go right through it.
Since Trump's ear is back to normal. Ronnie,
look at the picture at the 10-minute and 24-second mark. His ear is perfectly normal.
And getting this upset over Wray giving his testimony tells us that there's more to the story that Trump doesn't want people to know. Also, we know that Ronnie didn't see the bullet hit Trump's ear, and if we're being really honest with ourselves, Ronnie was most likely drunk at the rally, so any medical assessment done by a guy without a medical license is invalid. Again, I'm not denying that the attempted assassination happened. It's the fact that Trump has lied and or exaggerated about his injury that has many people asking questions. Ronnie even issued another letter to attack Wray's testimony by saying, Congress should correct the record as confirmed by both the hospital and myself. Director Wray is wrong and inappropriate to suggest anything else. Okay, sure, as soon as we see the medical report from the hospital, because I'm not about to take the word of a drunk sexual predator who gave away drugs like candy in the White House. Trump also had a tantrum on Truth Social saying, a bullet that hit my ear, and hit it hard. There was no glass, there was no shrapnel, the hospital called it a bullet wound to the ear, and that is what it was. Does anyone else find it weird that Jackson and Trump keep mentioning that glass hit his ear? I mean, Wray never mentioned glass in his testimony.
There's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that that hit his ear.
Oh, and FYI, Christopher Wray is a Republican who was appointed by Donald Trump, so it's only fitting that Trump would attack the guy that he hired. The major concern here is that there could be way more damage than previously thought, and if Trump truly has nothing to hide, then he shouldn't be concerned with the public seeing his medical records. Unless, of course, Trump is trying to hide the fact that he was actually hit by a bullet fragment, and that the damage to his ear wasn't as bad as he made it sound. But like usual, Trump is the one who got himself into. He had to lie about what happened, and he had to make it sound worse than it was, as if getting shot wasn't bad enough. And because of that, it's looking more suspicious, especially as people keep asking the question, why hasn't Donald Trump released his medical records? Well, that's off.
I think the whole thing's a farce. I think it was all staged. And it was to get sympathy from the American people and the MAGA idiots that follow this absolute moron. And, I mean, just look at his ear. I'll attach the link, pass it along, and thanks for listening.